Chapter 1, Fifth Crusade, 1217 to 1221, by David Rawlinson. Crusader States versus Ayyubid Egypt. The Fifth Crusade, which took place between 1217 and 1221, was one of the major military campaigns launched by Christian Europe against Islamic forces during the medieval period. Unlike some of the earlier crusades that were defined by spontaneous zeal or charismatic leadership, the Fifth Crusade was notable for its more calculated approach, with a long period of preparation and a strategic focus on attacking Egypt, the heart of Ayyubid power, in an effort to weaken the Islamic world's control over the Holy Land. The origins of the Fifth Crusade can be traced to the Fourth Lateran Council of 1215, convened by Pope Innocent III, one of the most influential popes of the medieval era. Pope Innocent III had long been committed to restoring Christian control over Jerusalem and the surrounding regions after the failure of the Third Crusade to permanently achieve its objectives. He recognized that any effort to capture Jerusalem would require a decisive blow to Egypt, which was then under the control of the Ayyubid dynasty, founded by the famed Muslim leader Saladin. Egypt was seen as the key to controlling the eastern Mediterranean, with its wealth, strategic location, and powerful navy. Innocent III died before the Fifth Crusade could be fully launched, but his successor, Pope Honorius III, continued to support the venture. Under his guidance, the call to arms spread across Europe, and several prominent leaders answered, including Leopold VI, Duke of Austria, and King Andrew II of Hungary. However, unlike earlier crusades, which had been spearheaded by figures of legendary status such as Richard the Lionheart or Godfrey of Bouillon, the Fifth Crusade lacked a singular, commanding figure to unite the effort. Instead, it relied on the collective leadership of various European nobles and clergy, which would prove both an asset and a hindrance as the campaign progressed. The first phase of the crusade began in 1217, when King Andrew II led a large force to the Holy Land, landing in the port city of Acre, which remained under Christian control. The initial operations were limited and largely indecisive. The Crusaders conducted raids and small-scale sieges against Muslim-held fortresses in the region, but they failed to make any significant gains. King Andrew, disillusioned by the lack of progress and likely more concerned with affairs back home, soon returned to Hungary, leaving the campaign without one of its key leaders. Attention then shifted to Egypt, the true focus of the crusade. The strategy, which had been developed with input from various European and church leaders, was based on the belief that capturing the port city of Damietta at the mouth of the Nile River would provide a critical foothold for further operations into the Egyptian heartland. In 1218, the crusading army, now reinforced by contingents from Italy, Germany, and France, launched a naval assault on Damietta. The city was well fortified and defended by the forces of Al-Kamil, the Ayyubid Sultan, and a nephew of Saladin. The siege of Damietta was a grueling and protracted affair, lasting nearly a year and a half. The Crusaders initially made significant progress by capturing a key defensive tower on the Nile, thanks in part to the innovative use of siege engines and floating platforms. However, the harsh conditions of the siege, including disease, hunger, and the unrelenting Egyptian counterattacks, took a heavy toll on the crusading forces. Morale fluctuated as the months dragged on, and internal divisions among the leaders occasionally hindered their ability to coordinate effectively. Despite these challenges, the Crusaders finally succeeded in capturing Damietta in November 1219. The victory was celebrated as a major triumph, and for a moment it seemed as though the Fifth Crusade might achieve its ultimate goal of securing Egypt, and by extension, Jerusalem. However, the occupation of Damietta soon revealed the deeper strategic difficulties that lay ahead. The city, while valuable, was not self-sustaining, and the Crusaders found themselves stretched thin as they tried to maintain control over the surrounding areas. At this critical juncture, the Crusaders were presented with a remarkable offer from Sultan Al-Kamil. Recognizing the precarious position of the Crusaders, and perhaps fearing further losses, Al-Kamil proposed a peace deal. He offered to cede control of Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and other key Christian sites in exchange for the return of Damietta. This offer presented the Crusaders with a dilemma that highlighted the broader tensions within their ranks. Some, particularly the papal legate Pelagius, argued that accepting the deal would be a betrayal of the Crusades' mission to subjugate Egypt and permanently weaken the Ayyubid state. Others, including some of the military leaders, believed that securing Jerusalem through negotiation was a pragmatic and worthwhile outcome. In the end, the faction led by Pelagius prevailed and the offer was rejected. The Crusaders, emboldened by their success at Damietta, believed they could march further south and capture Cairo, the Ayyubid capital. This decision would prove disastrous. In the summer of 1221, the crusading army advanced toward Cairo, but soon found itself trapped by the rising waters of the Nile, a result of the annual inundation that the Crusaders had failed to account for. The flooding turned the terrain into a swampy quagmire, making movement difficult and cutting off their supply lines. As conditions worsened, Al-Kamil launched a counteroffensive, surrounding the weakened crusading forces and effectively cutting off any chance of retreat. Faced with the prospect of annihilation, the Crusaders were forced to negotiate a humiliating surrender. They agreed to evacuate Damietta and abandon their campaign in exchange for safe passage out of Egypt. By September 1221, the remnants of the crusading army had withdrawn, marking the end of the Fifth Crusade. The failure of the Fifth Crusade had significant repercussions for both the Christian and Islamic worlds. For the Christian side, it was a sobering reminder of the limitations of crusading zeal when not paired with effective leadership and strategic foresight. The loss also deepened divisions within Europe, as many blamed the papal legate Pelagius and other leaders for their stubbornness and poor decision-making. In the Islamic world, the successful defense of Egypt solidified the reputation of the Ayyubid dynasty, and Al-Kamil emerged as a respected leader who had not only protected his realm, but had also demonstrated diplomatic acumen. In the years that followed, the lessons of the Fifth Crusade would influence subsequent efforts to reclaim the Holy Land. Some historians argue that the failure of the Crusade marked the beginning of a gradual shift in European attitudes toward the East, with less emphasis on large-scale military expeditions and more focus on diplomacy, trade, and smaller military engagements. The Fifth Crusade also underscored the growing importance of logistical planning and understanding the geographical and environmental challenges of campaigning in the Middle East. Ultimately, the Fifth Crusade is remembered as a missed opportunity, a campaign that began with high hopes and substantial resources, but ended in retreat and disappointment. Its legacy, however, extends beyond the immediate outcome, offering valuable insights into the complexities of medieval warfare, the dynamics of religious conflict, and the enduring struggle for control over the Holy Land.